Hello there, and welcome to the Second Life Book Club. My name is Draxtor, and today on the show, writer, academic, filmmaker, radio producer Tracy Sorensen. She's coming to us from Australia, hence the Australian-friendly time of 5 p.m. Second Life time. Her debut novel, The Lucky Galah, is absolutely delicious. The narrator of the story is a colorful cockatoo of pink and gray complexion called a Galah. I was not aware of Galahs, but they roam around Australia in masses. The story takes place in a remote part of coastal northern part of the country, coastal Australia, during the time leading up to the first moon landing in 1969. And here's the kicker: the Galah can tune into a satellite dish that is used to track NASA spaceships, and the Galah can receive the sort of the interior monologue of some of the protagonists that are uh, playing their parts in this story. So uh, it is an incredible setup, but it's not a gimmick. It makes so much sense, and it's a deep exploration of the human condition. Oh, did I mention that the Galah also likes to literally eat books? And Lizzie, the owner of the Galah, is the daughter of an Aboriginal woman who was raped by a doctor. So there is a lot of um, history there as well. The Galah receives satellite missives about a an accident, possibly a suicide early on. So there is a foreshadowing. There's a lot of suspense here. Tracy, this is an incredibly profound book, and it's not only for Australians. Um, that's my assessment. That should be on the blurb on the side. Welcome, Tracy. Welcome to Second Life.
Thank you so much, Draxtor. And this is just amazing. I just find this set absolutely glorious. You have created Lizzie and the Galah's living room, and now
Yes,
we're sitting in it. It's this is just wonderful. I feel like someone's made a movie of my novel already. It's just gorgeous.
that is kind of the intent, to create a book world where we're sort of living inside. And there's a little Galah in the back there behind you. You didn't choose to be. Actually, I think you asked me if you could be a Galah for the show, but now you're kind of a griffin with Galah color scheme, right?
I love it. I'm really interested in some of these themes about transhumanism and being something different to a normal looking human being. So just being able to kind of be this pieced together mythological creature, plus a good old Aussie Australian Galah, that's just perfect for me. But then you've got these beautiful little Galahs in the room with us, so
We
people can
actually,
see
yes.
exactly. Yeah.
We have Shyla, the super Galah. She will read a little bit later, and we have Ruby Geek here on the table. And big shout out to Ruby. She created this set, and a little bit later we'll reveal. We'll zoom back out and see where we actually are inside of. I'm not going to give this away, but Ruby created this with assets from other Second Life creators. And if you are so inclined, dear audience member who is here in the room with us, please do tip. There is a tip jar. As you know that tip jar. He's on the couch, flanked by a crocheted cat. We'll also be talking about crochets. But anyways, real quick question before we get started. Tracy, you have a long history in Second Life. You've been here for 13 years. Um, I mean, not every day, but why? What compelled you to explore Second Life in the beginning?
Yeah, well, I got really interested in Second Life from the outset. I just found that incredibly exciting. So I have to confess that I'm a bit of an addictive personality. So when I first found it, I just was spending hours and days in Second Life, just wandering around, and I loved flying so much. But I think the thing is that Second Life is like a novel world to me. It's
Mhm.
I can step literally into another sense of myself and another world and move around in it. So yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time since, because I've got a little bit worried about myself. I remember hearing in real life, I heard a bit of the wind blowing in the background, and I got this kind of
The Second
addictive
Life
rush.
Wind.
It was the second life wind, and I could feel my heart rate go up, and it's like I got all excited, and I thought, wow, I am bodily addicted. So let me back out of here for a little while. So yeah, it's a very compelling idea that we can take on a persona and move around in created worlds, which is absolutely what we do, as
Yeah.
writers, and what I do as a novelist. So that works for me.
People may have noticed that I actually have in my hand the Lucky Galah book because I want to read a very, very quick excerpt to get a taste of your amazing storytelling abilities. But quickly, I don't want to make light of addiction. Certainly, there is a promise and a peril with these worlds and with the digital realm. But I do have to say, when I first discovered Second Life myself and sort of understood what it could be. I remember the next morning I had to get up and take the bus to my job at the time, and it felt that all the people at 6 a.m. at the bus stop just looked way less lively than the avatars in the world. I mean,
Yep.
naturally so. It was really kind of bizarre how lively and intellectually stimulating the conversation I had, the night prior, and then I go into the sort of mundane 9 to 5 situation, and it felt truly truly sad how lifeless the commuters looked.
That's funny. Yeah, so true.
I want to get us into the show with a quick excerpt here, and this is from the story. This is Kevin and Marjorie. These two characters, they get married, and a little bit later in the story, they actually are the first owners of the Galah, where the Galah is put in a cage. Then later he gets lucky when he gets out of the cage and lives with Lizzie. But this is such an awesome little passage here where Marjorie and Kevin, in this small town here on the coast of North, I guess, Western Australia, um, meet and court each other. So here we go. The years went by, and the girls she knew all married one by one. Then the weddings stopped because they had run their course. She, Marjorie, was considered to have been left on the shelf when Kevin Kelly unexpectedly asked her to go to the pictures with him. We're talking, I think, 50s. He stank of whale blubber, but she said yes. A girlfriend, on hearing the news, said thoughtfully, "It doesn't matter what a person is like on the outside, it's what's inside that counts." She was referring to the stink. All the Flensers stink. There was nothing that could be done about it. They could wash themselves for a week and the stench would only fade, not disappear. On the night of her date, Marjorie's bulgy eyes glittered. Her cheeks were pink. Her wide, froggy mouth was moist and inviting. When she saw Kevin coming down the street towards her, she was wearing a he was wearing a boot on one foot and a slipper on the other, and he was limping. The day before, he had slipped in the blubber on the flensing deck and twisted his ankle. Although he'd had 4 showers that afternoon, he stank of whale blubber and palm leaf soap. Marjorie's new dress was flattened against her body in the strong wind. She had to use both hands to hold her dress down and hat on. They swept into the Memorial Theater, dancing on air like movie stars held up and driven forward by the wind. Kevin forgot all about his ankle. They watched An Affair to Remember as the cyclone set in earnest. "Keep her going," the audience yelled when the power cut out and everything plunged into blackness, bringing the sound of the screaming wind into the foreground. Kevin and Marjorie took advantage of the velvet darkness combined with general commotion to move seamlessly into a series of long kisses. Despite the ominous crashing and breaking sounds, the audience stayed on in the dark for a long time, hoping the film would start up again, unwilling to face the storm outside. Eventually, they had to surrender. All had adventures getting home. And that's a little taste here from the Lucky Galah. Really, really wonderful. Tracy,
Yes.
how do you like your own book? You like to be flattered?
Yes. Well, thank you for reading that, and it's such an extraordinary thing to hear somebody read this out, and these places and situations and cyclones are so familiar to me and so personal to me, and it's just extraordinary hearing someone play it back to me from the other side of the world. But here we are all in the one room together as well, so it's not the other side of the world. We're all sharing Lizzie's living room. But yeah, I
Well,
noticed
actually,
there's
before I want to get into the because before we actually, I think in an email a few days ago, you said to me, thank you that you like this book so much, and some, and I'm paraphrasing you, but you said like, I'm kind of surprised that this book resonates outside of Australia. Why would you think that? What makes it to you uniquely Australian? Or and related question, were you concerned? At the I don't know, resonance or validity of this outside of the Australian context.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned because I guess I was writing so strongly to an Australian audience. The book I'm
Uh-huh.
writing now, which we can talk about in a little while, is much more universal. But this particular one is kind of it's a love letter to my own experience, more or less in the outback, growing up as a child in Australia, and so much of it is, very uniquely Australian. Just including the galah itself. Like it's
Right.
here in Australia, they're literally everywhere. If you look out of the window, there's galahs flying past. But for an audience outside Australia, you've got to start with, okay, a galah is a pink and grey cockatoo. So there's just so much that needs to be explained at every point. But I'm very intrigued that you got enough of it to be happy with. Yeah, but the other huge thing is that the book, in a sense, is a riff on a very famous Australian book called The Lucky Country, and
Oh,
so
we'll
yeah,
we'll we'll, we'll get there. Actually,
we'll get there,
our
will we?
co in just a sec, because our co-producer Shyla has prepared a wonderful slide with a quote, and you see the Lucky Country is actually here on the table as well
Amazing.
on my e-reader pocketbook. But first, there's a little collage of galas here in the back now on the backboard, that people can see here on the stream. So these are different wonderful galas, and as you say, they're absolutely plentiful. And it's funny, in the book there's one instance, or maybe a couple, where the galah gets sort of mistaken. I mean, our famous galah with the other ones. So, but you mentioned the Lucky Country, which is a book written by, I have to look at my notes. What's the name of the author?
Donald Horn. His name is Donald Horn,
Donald
and
Horn.
yeah, I think his son Nick Horn might be watching us on YouTube. So hello, Nick, if you're there.
Ah, Nick, if you're there, you can see it because the camera is looking at a quote from the book, and I'm reading it. The quote is, Australia is a lucky country run mainly by second-rate people who share its luck. It lives on other people's ideas, and although its ordinary people are adaptable, most of its leaders and all feel so lack curiosity about the events that surround them that they are often taken by surprise. I mean, this is a kind of an indictment, Tracy.
It's a major indictment, yeah. And what is really funny is that people in Australia, a huge number of them, even though it was such a famous book, never read beyond the title. So
Hmm.
they took the title as a form of praise or delight. Here we are. It's the
Oh,
lucky
I see.
country. So the irony of it just kept piling up and piling up, because Donald Horn is writing quite a sharp critique of Australia. You're
Mhm.
incredibly lucky, but you haven't really done anything to deserve it. And yet Australians took the title of the book and just ran with that, and so we refer to each other all the time as being in the lucky country, and so the irony, just gets lost, and everyone just goes on being lucky and a bit oblivious.
Bit oblivious about their this is interesting. Well, maybe that's why it resonates with me, because growing up in Germany, I never bought into the I mean, this is also borderline dangerous, obviously, the belief that Germans somehow are superior in their cultural achievements. I mean, that narrative is out there today quite strongly, and it's been used by all sorts of nefarious actors, by saying like, okay, we got to be careful with refugees because when they come in, they dilute our superiority in music, literature, and economic accomplishments and BS like that. That's weird,
Mm,
because but
mm,
Australia is also not very, I mean, quote unquote friendly to refugees. I mean,
absolutely. Mm. Yeah. There's, I mean,
or even to their Aboriginal
absolutely. Yeah.
population.
Yeah,
You
that's
weave
right.
that in there. You weave that into that story.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess just first on that cultural thing about living in a country, say in Germany, where the widespread idea is that this is a superior culture, and hundreds and hundreds or a thousand, or going back into ancient times, incredibly cultural. Australia's discourse is extremely anti-intellectual, so it's quite hard to be any kind of artist or novelist or writer, because it's assumed that you must be a wanker. So the only people who do anything creative are wankers. I'm exaggerating for effect,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
there might be Australians
No, I
horrified by what
understand
I'm
what you mean.
saying,
I mean, yeah.
but
Oh,
but
go ahead.
that's the discourse. And there's another famous couple of lines in the Lucky Country, which says the image of an Australian is a man in an open-necked shirt, um, uh, licking solemnly licking an ice cream. His kitty is beside him. So it's this kind of image of this utterly sort of hedonistic, carefree, and just having a good time is a kind of solemn duty in Australia. But yeah, just getting on to the refugees,
But
and
that's difficult.
yeah,
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but I mean, you're making it's this what you're the Australian that you're describing is incredibly familiar to me, because growing up in Munich, Germany, the Australians love to go to the Oktoberfest. And when I, as a teenager, and still found that kind of stuff interesting, those were literally all the Australians that I had met between the age of 16 and maybe 22 before I went to America. All the
yeah,
Australians, they completely, but at the same time, it's dangerous to work with,
generalize.
to generalize. I mean, are you the only intellectual in Australia?
I'm not. I'm not. So I'm exaggerating for effect, but I'm exaggerating from something that has a lot of truth in it. And I think Donald Horn was trying to make us have a look at ourselves back in the 60s. So yeah, there's an element. There's a large element of truth, and the beer drinking, hedonistic, just out for a good time Aussie is definitely famous for good reason. But at the same time, I do need to balance all this. We do have, the world's most magnificent opera house, and people
Yeah,
actually sing opera in it. We have amazing
they don't sing drinking
novelists.
songs in there. They
No,
they
they
do.
they sing. They do Verdi, and they do everything properly. That you're supposed to do in an opera house. And yeah, we have novelists, writers, painters. There's always been a big intellectual and creative element in Australian life as well.
Mm,
It's just
mm.
that in the national discourse, for example, our Prime Minister basically wants to see us all as, you know, a nation of people who get into what we call four-wheel drive. I think you call it a sports utility vehicle,
Mhm.
SUV, I'm not sure, and go out into the, you know, just go out on the weekends and do some fishing. That's the way the Prime Minister speaks to us.
Oh, even Nightfire here in the local chat is mentioning the juice media, which apparently is political satire. So
Yep,
if there's a link, please even put it in the local chat, and we'll save it for later.
yep.
Um, Real quick, Tracy, I don't mind you looking at the Galah on the table here, the Galah, but if you hit the escape button and then you would probably look at me. I don't take offense in that at all.
Am
That
I
you're and
looking at
now
you now?
now you're looking at the audience now. That is proper.
Is that
That is
nicer?
proper.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're looking at like a true Australian Griffin. You were looking at the kitchen, at the fridge, and thinking like, "Oh,
Yeah.
is there some
Yeah.
beer
Is
in
there
there, maybe?"
something to eat there? Yep. Can I get something? Yeah.
Um, Now, I would like you to read, and this is, let me set this up here. This is early on in the book, and I mentioned it, the Galah in your book is able to tune into a satellite dish that is used to track spaceships. Again, this NASA spaceships. Again, the book plays in the 60s leading up to the 1969 moon landing, and the main protagonists, the husband is a tracker working with the Australians to help NASA track the spaceship, and his wife is a tracker wife, meaning well, pretty much a housewife of the time. Not you know not a lot of opportunities also in that kind of remote area, but the first excerpt that we're going to hear from you is gives us a little glimpse into the Galah tuning into. Um, oh no, he has actually just eaten Lucky Country. I forget because Lizzie, the Aboriginal woman um, that owns the Galah, goes to a bookstore and feeds the Galah books because the Galah likes to eat books.
Okay. I'll read this little section here. This is just after Lizzie and the Galah have had afternoon tea, and
Oh, they have tea
she's
together, right?
yeah, they have
Yes.
tea, and she's just about to turn her attention to The Lucky Country, which is this book that we've been talking about, and she's going to tear it to shreds. Okay, I'll just read this little bit. The galah is an intelligent animal, despite its reputation as a clown and lightweight. A captive galah needs constant activity if it is not to decline into depression. Tearing up books page by page is a mental, physical, and spiritual workout for me, as good as any gym, yoga class, or university. Lizzie naps on the couch as I work. The Australasian Bird Fancier, her magazine, has slipped from her hands. Her mouth is slightly open. She snores. The Lucky Country is a slim volume, paperback, faster to get through than an old Reader's Digest. I tear it up quickly, not expecting much. Afterwards, I begin to doze off myself. As my nictitating membranes slide upwards over my pupils, the words of The Lucky Country come back to me, suggesting pathways for dreams. The wooden salad bowl, the bead curtain, innocent happiness. When I open my eyes, I see the remains of my book on the floor, strips and straggles of paper. Part of the cover still readable, but the L is missing. Ucky Country. A dustpan and brush come into view, and Lizzie's knobbly hand. She sweeps everything up, parts of sentences, torn words in neat little strokes. She carries the pan out through the back door, and I hear the smack of the wheelie bin lid before she reappears again. I can still copy perfectly the flushing of the Kelly toilet. This makes Lizzie laugh her raspy little laugh. She walks across the room and gives me a nice long scratch. When she stops, I continue to hold my neck out, inviting more. What are we going to do with you, eh? She croons, my beautiful girl. I don't answer. My receptive vocabulary is excellent, but my productive vocabulary remains frustratingly limited. My spoken English progressed from hello, cocky, and dance, cocky, dance, to skippity hop when I came to live with Lizzie. Later, I learned stupid dickhead and bad cough. So that's that excerpt.
That's Tracy Sorensen reading from the Lucky Galah. Wonderful reading. I mean, this gives us a little glimpse into how the Galah narrates the story. And I know this from my co-producer Shyla, the Super Gecko or the Super Galah today, who informed me, because I don't do any research on the background of the author. I let the work speak to me, and then she does the research. And I learned that you did not in the beginning had the Galah actually tell the story, being the narrator and also being sort of the conduit through receiving these satellite signals. Um, why did you put the Galah there? Or actually, better
Hmm.
question, why did you not think of the Galah in the first place? I actually thought this was all built around the Galah.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful how that works? Because sometimes the thing you're writing ends up being nothing like what you started out doing. So I really started out doing a much more human-centered account of interesting people who come to a small town in the lead up to the moon landing in 1969. So I had a lot of the characters. Evan and Linda were there from the beginning. That's the tracking station couple. But I was just writing along, and I did one little passage from the point of view of the Galah in the backyard, a couple of
Mhm.
doors away, and I found myself crying, and I was very moved by what I'd just written, because it was this poor little caged bird, looking out at all these people talking about flight, and she'd had her wings clipped and she's in a cage. And it was just very poignant to me, and it just kind of came over me that maybe this is the Galah's story. So I threw out a lot of stuff along the way. So originally it was, a character a little bit like me, going back to her hometown and
Mhm.
wandering around town and kind of communing with the stories of this town. And so in the end, I threw out that person who was a bit boring, um, and just wrote it entirely from the point of view of the Galah.
In the back here, I have a collage that Shyla put together where we see the town of Carnarvon, which I guess is similar to the town that you're describing. It's small, it's kind of remote, and there is a satellite dish here in the corner too. And the picture on the bottom here is actually of the regional airport, which is a very small airport. It's very important that this is a remote part of Australia, I guess. I mean, it's not Melbourne, it's not Sydney. What?
Absolutely. Yeah, Carnarvon. Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
So in
Carnarvon. Oh, mhm.
Carnarvon, yeah. You've got to
Carnarvon,
say it with an
Carnarvon,
Australian accent.
Carnarvon, mate.
Carnarvon. Yep.
Carnarvon. Yeah.
Mate. Yep. Yeah, this is so Carnarvon is where I grew up in Australia, which is right up the north coast of Western Australia. And um, you can't see it in those pictures, but the immediately sort of behind these scenes is just the red outback. So it's a place where the red outback meets the beautiful blue Indian Ocean, and it's 900 kilometres from Perth. It's really, as we say in Australia, in the middle of nowhere, really.
But
And
see,
I
that's the
grew,
thing. I mean, it looks attractive to me now. I mean, it's like if I would live there with right by the ocean, that would be beautiful. But
yeah,
growing up and also in your book, the woman of the tracker wife, Linda, she is super unhappy there
yeah,
and just completely bored out of her mind as a stay-at-home mom and housewife, while her husband is ostensibly has a really exciting job at this junction tracking the spaceships and all that. So it really depends. This countryside or what nature has to offer there is can only be I guess cherished if your own life is
if
in
that's what
tune
you
with
want.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, it's a pretty little town, but it's a little town surrounded by desert and what we call scrub. I think it's gorgeous. I mean, it's a beautiful place, and I spend all my life pining, to go back there. Um, but but I mean, these photos are, uh, you know, I mean, now there's the internet. You can get a good coffee, But back in the early '60s, it was dirt roads, very tiny settlement, and there were these highly educated, sophisticated people coming from all over the world, the United
Hmm.
States, the United Kingdom, from Melbourne, from Sydney, converging on this little place. And a lot of the wives in particular, because it was always the men taking up these jobs at that time, although not entirely. There's always amazing exceptions, but they were horrified.
Hmm.
A lot of
Hmm.
them, and yet others took to it. Took to the natural beauty of it. So my own parents, who arrived in Carnarvon in the late '60s, just went out into the natural world and lapped it up. They just loved it. So it depends who you are and what you're looking for in life. But for someone like Linda, the wife of the tracking station guy, she, she's doesn't really relate to
Right.
this place.
Right. Right. That's
Yeah,
that's yeah. That's putting it. Well, it's putting it
mildly.
mildly, but no, no. I mean, you're painting the picture for us because even when you grew up, you already had more options there than
Hmm,
compared to the '60s, obviously, and this
yeah.
leads us perfectly into the next reading, and this is an excerpt, and I'm very happy that you chose this excerpt because maybe the universality or why this book is so universal. It has people go to the bathroom all the time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes it's an outhouse, sometimes they take a crap on the side of the road. So our audience, half asleep audience, they're going like, "Oh, now the book gets interesting. I'm gonna buy it." Um,
Yeah,
but before you read this, just real quick, I mean, is this a metaphor
of course.
of letting go? I guess.
It could be a metaphor for letting go. I mean, more broadly, um, it's like the vision of Australia that's painted by people who just want to only look at the good stuff, and they don't
Mhm,
want to look at the bad stuff. So it's like, yeah, we've got to look at our own shit.
mhm. That goes back to the lucky country. The country's also lucky because people don't look at their own shit.
Absolutely,
Mhm. They
absolutely.
just crap in the
Yes,
outhouse in the back somewhere and that's
that's
that, and then
right.
they go back and have a cup of tea.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mhm.
So it's the writers. One of the writers' tasks is to also help us look at our own shit, I guess. So
And you
there
do
you
that
go.
brilliantly. Please go ahead, page 27. And this
Okay.
is Evan and Linda, and they're driving up there, and he gets the job, or I think they go to the interview, but basically they're driving up there from Melbourne, a
Yep.
long drive, and here's the section.
Lovely. Linda Johnson's pale, long legs appear out of the side of the car, like the front antennae of an albino lobster. It is 1964 and she is 23 years old. She walks away from her husband and child. She is alone in an expanse of red dirt and scrub. Carrying the toilet roll, her ears begin to tune in to the small sounds of the scrub, its dry crackles and rustlings. She hears the bell-like call of a bird she's never heard before, with its deliciously clear falling notes. There is little to hide behind in this low scrub, so she keeps walking out in a line perpendicular to the road, looking for a screen, even though there are no other cars on the road and it seems unlikely there ever will be. Evan is calling to her from the other side of the car, standing up, calling across the roof. Don't go too far, but she ignores him. She crouches behind a waist-high wattle. Crouched there with its sharp, dry twigs in her face, she discovers that the four-note bird call goes in time with the phrase, have a good shit. No, it goes like this, have a good shit, have a good shit. This is her own thought, one that she need not share with her husband, whose own bowels, bound up by processed cheese, cannot be released. This is a moment of triumph, of enjoyment of one's own company, one's own body. It is relief. It is divestment. It is a small holiday. She listens to the bird and secretly names it the shit bird, Birdus shittus. Linda Johnson crouches behind the partly see-through shrub, divesting herself. As she stands and rearranges her skirt, a sense of elation and well-being sweeps over her. She steps away, leaving a part of herself on the ground, and walks back to the car eagerly. Red dust seeps into the tiny creases in her white leather sandals. She doesn't realize it, but her eyes are shining, her lips are smiling, but inwards at her own joke. Evan sees this unfathomable look and smiles too, trying to catch her eye. They say nothing as he starts the car, each looking at the road ahead. Linda has just completed a successful dump and erase. It's a phrase Evan will come to know well during his tracking station years. As a spacecraft orbits the Earth, it will gather long lists of numbers, more every second, too many to hold inside its primitive brain. The solution is to periodically wipe the slate clean so that it can gather new lists of numbers. The request goes out, in spacecraft speak, for permission to dump and erase. Yes, whispers Evan to the spacecraft, you may. And the spacecraft delivers its load, dumps all of its numbers into the eager dish below, and moves on, clean and refreshed. So I might leave that there.
Wonderful, wonderful. The bird is shittus. This is the one thing that we didn't do, which is to rename the bird here on the side in the back there. Bird is shittus, but that would be kind of mean. This is Tracy Sorensen reading from the Lucky Galah, and now, because it's only fair, I would like to welcome to the stage Shyla the Super Galah, of course, also known as Shyla the Super Gecko, co-producer of this program. And we have a perch. I'm bringing up the perch here. And as we mentioned earlier, the Galah in the book receives messages or receives missives or stored messages from a dish that are slightly out of time also. These missives could be coming from the past. They could be coming slightly from the future or from the present. And the Galah can thereby bring us into the minds of some of the protagonists. And in this excerpt, the protagonist is a dude by the name of Harry Baumgarten. Now, Harry Baumgarten is a scientist who appears in that community, and he is a breath of fresh air for the tracker wives, for the board tracker wives. He's a little bit of an eccentric, right? And he in this excerpt, and Tracy, interrupt me if I am painting a Harry Baumgarten not correctly, but Harry Baumgarten here in this party scene, the the tracker wives throw a party, and Harry is there, and he gets them all drunk, and he gets them to loosen up a little bit, um, and that puts things into motion in somewhat tragic ways, but he is really encouraging them to be themselves. And again, in the book, this is a missive from the satellite dish arriving at the Galah, and so the Galah is now speaking in Harry Baumgarten's voice. Good, Shyla. Anything to add, Tracy?
No, that's perfect. You've done a beautiful portrait of Harry.
Harry, I relate to Harry a lot, Tracy. I think you modeled Harry after me.
I might have. I relate to him too, actually. He is my favourite character, I have to admit.
Because he does his own thing. He is in his world. He enjoys his work, his research, and he's the kind of free spirit, like you were saying earlier. The I guess in your painting of Australia, the rare intellectual who can also have fun,
Yep,
and just does his own thing.
absolutely. Yep.
Okay, Shyla the Super Galah, go ahead.
All right. Drunkenness was instant and thorough. The conversation swung from hilarity to intimacy. We began to tell our earliest memories, our greatest fears, our deepest secrets, or ostensibly so. I noticed that people, me included, dredged up fears and secrets that were entertaining but not too close to home. Then it was Linda's turn. My father was a communist, she said. My mother lost her entire family in the war, and she's quite mad. This was serious stuff, a total shift. There was a moment of silence. I looked at Linda tenderly. I saw that she was a kindred spirit, an outsider overcompensating, in this case by feathering her carrots. And now, because of my grappa, she was about to spoil the image of conformity she had worked so hard to achieve. I egged her on. Was your family ostracized? She paused, sizing up the spirit of the hive. Yes, said Linda evenly. I was called names at school, Camo, Refo. Then, trying to tell us about a girl with psoriasis sitting alone on a school bench, she burst into tears. She was crying because she had left that poor girl behind when she got her own invitation to play a stupid skipping game. She had not looked back. And then the others, emboldened to step out of their narrow shafts of clear, bright sunlight, offered shadowy stumblings of their own. School can be such a nasty, nasty place, a tracker wife said with feeling. Children can be so very cruel. I was called fat. Our eyes could not stop but lower themselves to her plump midriff. The confessions continued. Evan Johnson told us he had cried in front of the whole class after being whipped with a cane. Were you ostracized? Shouted the plump tracker wife. Yes, we all cried in unison.
Sorry, I'm laughing. Thank you, Shyla. You read this with gravity. A wonderful reading. I would have read this with um, maybe making light, but this is a hilarious scene, but it's also somewhat tragic. I mean, Linda is expressing herself as a housewife by making these elaborate carrots, the feathered carrots. If people know what I'm talking about, I should have brought a slide about that. But I mean, that's a very creative. I don't want to make fun of it, but anyways, Thank you. Is anybody else here ostracized? Are we all ostracized here in the audience? I certainly was. I was made fun of, a guy who owns a bookstore now. Um, but so what about this couple, Evan and Linda, Tracy? I mean, I guess that's the universality of that kind of marriage or relationship that also attracted me to the book, or makes it universal. I think. I mean, this can, you
Yeah,
know, this
yeah.
would maybe it was more prevalent before feminist
Before feminism.
advances.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So, but it's still, I mean, it's still
yeah, that's
dominant.
right. Yeah, I think so, and Evan and Linda is where we get, in some ways, it's the heart of the story, really, is that relationship between them, and also their relationship with their neighbours a couple of doors down, and Linda's boredom, which leads her astray from her marriage, and so she's they got together. I suddenly remembered the Johnny Cash thing about we got married in a fever hotter than a pepper sprout. They got married. They got married quickly to just kind of solve their own problems as young people at the time,
Mhm.
and then it's quickly revealed that they don't have much in common at all, and so she's left Melbourne and the people she knows. She's stuck in a tiny country town. She's not up at the tracking station doing the interesting historical stuff. She's
Right.
just kind of having to hang out with other, wives. And she's an extremely intelligent person, reads lots of books. And in another incarnation or another time in history, she might have been something else altogether. But at that particular time, there she is, a housewife. So the couple, I kind of paint this picture of the Venn diagram. They have a little bit in common in the middle, but basically most of the diagram on either side is looking off in different directions. And how that pans out for people and how they do or don't cope. And from Evan's point of view, he has solved the problem of getting a
Hmm.
wife and children. He's kind of slotted them into place, and he has no idea there's anything wrong at all.
Hmm.
So the unraveling of their marriage is utterly surprising, tragic, and completely destabilizing for him.
It's a wonderful book, and everybody should get this book now. But now let's move gears to your upcoming book, and it's a memoir about your own battle with cancer. And I would like the camera to zoom back a little bit and get us a little bit an overview of what we're actually of where we are. We are inside the living room of Lizzie, the woman who owns the Lucky Galah in the main part of the book. But if we zoom out, we see that we are actually inside a giant crocheted uterus floating in space, because of course we are here on the Second Life Book Club, so we can put the entire audience, and the entire show can very easily take place in a giant uterus. And let me just say, the set here will stick around so people can visit it anytime, and they can go in here and they can click and they find more information about Tracy. Now, why is the uterus crocheted? I'll give the camera a little bit time to come back into the room. The uterus is crocheted because you, Tracy, are kind of obsessed, and you mentioned earlier that you have an addictive personality. I guess maybe you're addicted to crocheting, but
Yep.
it's amazing. So on the side, we have here photos from your Flickr page where you crocheted all these organs. Um, and you didn't just do that, because you felt like that. There is a healing component to it. Actually, I put a slide up there, healing and learning crochet, and there's also a component of um, uh, healing the world in terms of advocating for to do something about the climate crises. So those are components of crocheting. But basically, my question before we go into your upcoming book, tell me about the crochet. What does crocheting mean to you?
Okay, yeah. So crochet is, of course, this. It's a domestic craft, mostly performed by women, but not entirely, and it has feelings of kind of comfort and homeliness about it. And my mum taught me to crochet when I was about 9 years old, and I guess it has that feeling of comfort and consolation about it for me. So when I got cancer a few years ago, I had stage 3C primary peritoneal cancer, which is close to ovarian cancer. It's a form of ovarian cancer. I immediately picked up my crochet hook. I couldn't read. I couldn't do anything. I was just kind of deeply shocked and frightened, and crochet was my lifesaver. So I started to crochet all of the organs in my own abdomen. So I crocheted my liver, my spleen, my stomach, because these organs were all threatened by the 2 tumors that were growing inside my abdomen at the time. And I even created 2 well, they're actually pom-poms, 2 tumors. So it was crocheted 3-dimensional organs plus a couple of tumors that I crocheted. So crochet is a very profound thing. And then since I got well, which is wonderful, I did get well, I kind of had these little personalities sitting there in front of me, the liver, the stomach, the spleen, the large intestine, the small intestine. So they ended up kind of with names and personalities, and eventually that morphed into this book I'm writing now, which is a cancer memoir from the point of view of the various organs. So last time I wrote the book from the point of view of a pink and grey Galah, but this time I'm writing a book from the point of view of a spleen, a pancreas, so I've got a little cast of characters who each tell their own story of how they dealt with these tumours, and by that means we kind of get the story of crisis and high stakes and alliances and battles and all that kind of thing. So yeah, that's my new upcoming work.
It's amazing. I read it, and we'll hear it in a second. I read the excerpt that you sent. Before we hear you reading, can you tell us about the because I put up the slide here that Shala prepared about the climate change. What's the component? What's the activism component with crochet that you engage here with climate change?
Well, I guess like cancer, climate change, particularly in Australia, I would say far less so in Germany. We're probably more like the United States. There's been enormous denial about climate change in Australia and the need to do anything about it. So we're really out of step with a lot of countries in the world on this. But anyway, a little bit like cancer, climate change is a very gloomy subject that can set off terror and grief and uncertainty about the future. So for me, I've been sort of bringing crochet into my life as a climate activist, and this has involved crocheting along river and plants and animals, and bringing these things along to protest activities, and it kind of softens the atmosphere and gives some people something more consoling or
Right.
warm to look at. So it's just kind of looking at handicrafts like crochet might not immediately seem to be connected to climate change, but they can be. We can
This is
make those connections.
I cannot believe how brilliant this is, because it also, it's really, it diffuses a little bit sort of the fear, like you said, and also the crisis fatigue, I guess, and also maybe
Yes,
what some people may perceive as being sort of lectury. I mean, I
yes,
certainly have that. That's sort of unfortunately built into my personality.
yep,
It's nature and nurture, and I know I could, I can be off-putting and come across sort of ideological, and people tune me out. That's
yep.
a brilliant way of getting people on the table and stay there.
Exactly. It invites people to, it doesn't say anything. If you've got a crocheted object, it's just intriguing and it's not a lecture.
Mhm, mhm.
It's it just gives people space to contemplate a woolly object and let their minds go a little bit more free. A domestic approach to a crisis situation.
Yes,
Yes,
Stella, says
says
Stella here.
Stella. Exactly. And we need to approach it, a problem like this, from all directions. So I'm not saying, we don't need the science, we don't need the lectures, but I'm saying, yeah, we can all relate to this problem in ways that we can cope with and that also help to move things along a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's the role of art. I mean it's absolutely brilliant. Okay, so we're going to go over time. I apologize to my producers. They know me. They're rolling their eyes, but they're also smiling because they love this conversation. I know it, and they want this to go on. Um, and now, please, Tracy, I would like you to read a little bit from your upcoming book. And I think the the um the working title right now is Rage. So we actually made up a little cover. Actually, Ruby made up a cover here that's right
It's
there in front of you.
amazing. Yep.
It's it's a cover with crochet, and in this excerpt, the character Baby uh is the tumor, and UT, I think it's pronounced, is the uterus. Um,
Yes.
and what's happening here is that they have to appear in front of an organ board. So inside the body, I guess, there is a board that solves problems, and that board has different stakeholders on the board, and of course the board meets via Zoom. I don't know,
Yep.
why don't they just meet in Second Life, Tracy? I don't understand. I love the book so far, but I don't understand why these organs have to meet on freaking Zoom. God.
Yeah, that's true. I think I might have gone down the wrong track there. I think they should meet in Second Life. And I've been thinking, I could certainly I'm actually quite keen to construct their a little something of them in Second Life, because it's perfect, isn't it? It's a perfect way of doing it. But anyway, what I'll read here is just a little bit from the character Rage, who is the spleen. So I guess
Oh, Rage. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and so Rage thinks Baby, the tumor, is absolutely gorgeous. Um, so maybe I'll just start from this bit here. Here we go. Baby made me remember being young, newly minted, energetic. Suddenly, I wanted some of that again, really badly. I saw myself for the thing I had become, an indolent, middle-aged, bookish dilettante. All talk, no action. So this is the Zoom meeting. We wrapped up with our usual pep talks and platitudes and sang the song of homeostasis. I noticed that Baby's lips were moving, but she was not singing the same words as the rest of us. What was she singing? What were those words? We said goodbye, bye, see ya, ta-ta, and one by one we all blinked out. For the first time in many years, I was sorry to see the end of an organ board meeting. I am, of course, a lump of meat, just as you are. But we tend not to think of ourselves this way. If you're at a party and someone asks you what you do you say that you produce bile and shit and piss? Do you mention how many times a day you kill cells and grow new ones? No. Your meat self recedes into the background, and you talk about the books you've read, or the rivers of blood you have photographed, or your adventures mining for copper or gold, calcium or phosphorus. You are meat, but you are much more than meat. So that will do for a little excerpt. So that's Rage the spleen, and he's infatuated immediately with Baby, the tumour.
Baby is the tumor. Ah, this is so awesome. Now I wish we should read more, but we can't. When is this book coming out?
Well, I don't know. I'm still writing it, so first I have to finish writing it. But I would love it to come out next year.
I
That
don't
would
want to
be
create any
brilliant.
pressure. Actually, I hate that question. I get asked that too, and I know.
Mm,
I mean, this is just when a writer comes out with something, or something is published, or a director, and they say, "Oh, that's great. So when is the next thing coming out?" That's
yeah.
completely ridiculous. I mean, there's enough anxiety about having finished one thing, and then people want the next thing. So, baby is the tumor. Just one question. I mean, you your cancer went away, but this was a very difficult time. I'm assuming that with the way it's going now, that it's going well, enabled you to even tackle tackle it in this format, right?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
was that something that was
Yeah. It's
kind of
now.
germinating within when you were ill? I guess not, because
No,
you mentioned
no.
you couldn't even read or write anything.
No, that's right. So when I was ill, I was capable of crocheting. So for that year, when I was having lots of chemotherapy and surgery, quite radical surgery, yeah, crochet was about all I could do. But now, it's like 6 or 7 years later, and I'm able to come back to it as material.
Hmm.
So I've been handed this glorious pile of guts, which are now material. So yeah, it's now another place I can play in, even though at every point, I understand how and understand personally that this is a very can be a very tragic situation, uh, but I
Are
do
you
think we
concerned
can.
that somebody would read this and would be offended? That you
I
put this into this language, that
Yeah,
basically like, yeah,
I
you're
hope.
making light of something?
Yeah, I hope not. And I think the fact that I experienced it myself gives me that kind of latitude in a way. It's like, well, this happened to me. I do understand how serious it is, and yet a little bit like climate change, I guess we can still be light-hearted in there. There's still
Absolutely.
lots to be whimsical about, and that is part of the human experience.
Very well said. Although you're looking, of course, away from me.
I'm so sorry about that.
I'm kidding. This is just this is the wonderful nature of Second Life. At least you're not falling off the stage. We had people
No.
fall off the stage. We had to install invisible walls. So world famous authors like Paul McCauley and Matt Ruff wouldn't fall off the stage. Actually, Matt Ruff never did. There you go. See, now it's time to stretch. Stretch well, dear Griffin. There you go. Now you're acknowledging the audience. Um, and I want to bring up one slide here that Shyla prepared. This is I guess a drawing or a doodle that Shyla found on your website. I guess OMG WTF.
Hmm.
This is you making sense. What is this? Describe this image that we're seeing here.
Oh, okay. Wow. Shyla, you did your research. That's extraordinary. Oh, my goodness.
I
Yeah.
have such a great team. I'm just sitting here reading the book, putting my feet up on the ottoman, and then have my people do stuff.
Oh, this is extraordinary. Okay, so this is this is right there at the time of diagnosis. So within days of my diagnosis, I was journaling in my little exercise book, and this is just me trying to come to terms with what the doctors are telling me. So they're saying there's a top tumor, it's 11 centimeters wide. There's a bottom tumor down near the uterus that's 5 centimeters wide, and it's just me working it through. Can I? It's just like by drawing something or putting it on the page, I'm just starting to assimilate the information. So it's true, I didn't only crochet. I was also drawing and journaling and doing this, not kind of writing at the computer writing, but this kind of just like writing notes into my journal. Yeah, so I did a whole little exercise book of this journaling, and yeah, it was just me assimilating the information. At first, when I was told the information, I couldn't even hear it. It was the classic thing where the doctor's mouth is opening and shutting like a goldfish, but you can't hear a damn thing.
And I mean, that's even apart from the sheer sort of informational. I mean, some doctors, I mean, I don't have to belabor the point, but some doctors are also not very adept in making very complicated scientific information sort of palatable.
No. Yeah. That this particular one
let alone
was pretty bad.
Let alone
No
helping with the
exactly.
emotional issues. Yeah.
Yeah, as Stella says in the chat, no bedside manner. No, absolutely. And part of this new novel I'm writing, which takes the point of view of the organs, is to kind of really get in there and make them more approachable and friendly. And I mean, I don't want to say cancer is friendly, but it also I'm making it more approachable. So it's kind of like we do tend to just get dumped with all this information, and you're just kind of trying to cope and wash around in it. But something like my novel might not necessarily be ideal for someone with cancer at the time, although it could be. But because it has a happy ending, so it is kind of hopeful. But is a way of making really dense scientific information more approachable. The lamb's fry. What is the lamb's fry? Asks Stella. In Australia, if you eat liver, if you want to eat a liver, it's called lamb's fry. So it comes. You eat a lamb's liver.
This is where Germany and my tradition and Australia collide. But we're out of time. We're going to stick around a little bit in the post game. So we'll stick around. People can ask Tracy questions. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. And the Lucky Galah, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's such a wonderful read. And thank you, wonderful audience. Please do stick around. Put in the local chat what you're reading right now. There you go. See, the Griffin can bow. That's wonderful. What are you reading right now, if anything, Tracy?
Oh, what am I reading? Oh my God. I am doing a PhD at Charles Sturt University. I'm reading a bit of Deleuze and Guattari, and Donna Haraway. But I'm also reading a book called Rewilding the Urban Soul, which is about how to kind of be a wild thing in an urban setting.
Wonderful. Put it in the local chat, and we'll collect those. So let me go through, and the local audience as well. Please put your recommendations in the chat. Time for the end credits. The Second Life Book Club is on every Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Today is an exception when we accommodate other time zones, but we're back at 12 o'clock next week. And the email for the show is slbookclub@draxtor.com. By the way, 12 o'clock Pacific is 8 p.m. GMT, because I always get asked that. The show is produced by Strawberry, Linden, Shyla, the Super Gecko, and myself, the location manager, master builder, Ruby Geek. Unbelievable. The avatars are made by Silas Merlin, Ruby, and Kralos, and sometimes we get them off the shelf. Special thanks, Marianne McCann, Theanine, Brett Linden, Patch Linden, AJ McDowell, Arden Schwartzman, and all the wonderful moles at Linden Lab. They help us. The SL Book Club is sponsored by Bad Unicorn, Bespoke Caravan, Blueberry, Creatures, Crescendo, Landscapes Unlimited, Linden Lab, Nomad, Rag VR, Salt and Pepper, Slink, Skin Stealer, The Black Forest, and What Next? And yeah, there is a tip jar on the sofa. Please do throw in your loose Linden dollars, your Linden coins, in appreciation of Shila's work, in appreciation of Ruby's work. I don't see a dime of this money. This all goes to the team. If you want to recommend authors, share ideas, critique, contact us via slbookclub@draxtor.com or ping the bot, Jared the bot. That's Jared Bot, his avatar name. Spread the word to book lovers all over the grid, please. Please do that and have them come aplenty. Next week, next Wednesday, we have two authors, and I still have to practice their names. Okinichove Donald Ekpeki and Zelda Knight, two authors, and Zelda is also a micro publisher. And they just published a book called Dominion, and it's an anthology of speculative fiction by African authors who live in the diaspora. So this is next Wednesday at 12 o'clock, right here on the Second Life Book Club. And there's a special show that is announced elsewhere. I'm not going to mention it because it's the Second Life birthday party. The Second Life is turning 18. There's stuff happening every day. There's music, and we also do a special show. I'm not going to mention it. You got to find it out for yourself. I'll see you next Wednesday right here on the Second Life Book Club.